Good morning, student. Today our topic is translation, and this is part 4. In my last discussion, we have already informed the deciphering of genetic code, tRNA, amino acylation, how it is, amino acid is appended with the tRNA, structure of ribosome, all these things we have already discussed. With this knowledge, now we are going to move how the protein synthesis, the actual protein synthesis mechanism takes place in prokaryotic system as well as in eukaryotic system. So we are going to study, we'll start with the protein synthesis in prokaryotic system first. See this, a model correctly. So what I'm showing, these two are the A site and P site which is present in the ribosome. Okay, imagine in the left hand side E site is also present. Now in the A site, the newly charged amino acid tRNA, that is the entry point of that tRNA. Now once this thing is the newly charged amino acid tRNA entered at the A site and already at the P site, the peptidyl tRNA, where the growing polypeptide chain is already carrying out, that is present. How this peptide bond formation reaction takes place, that we are now going to see the chemistry behind it. What we are showing here, the ribosome catalyzes the nucleophilic attack of the amino group of the amino acid tRNA in the A site on the peptidyl tRNA ester in the P site, thereby forming a new peptide bond and transferring that growing chain, the nascent polypeptide, to the A site tRNA while displacing P site tRNA towards E site. So what is now A site, in future that will be the P site. The new A site also will generate. So what exactly of this transfer, you will see the uncharged tRNA at the P site. And what is that? This is peptidyl tRNA, that is the new A site, which will be in future again this P site will be E site, A site will be P site, and new A site will be generated. What I'm showing here, this is the chemistry which is actually taking place while the protein synthesis going on. Now in the protein synthesis or the translation, we can divide into three categories. One is the initiation, other one is the elongation, and another one is the termination. Now we are going to discuss now typically the initiation in prokaryotic. Now this is what is happening when the protein synthesis is going on, but how the initiation is going on, that time there is no tRNA is entering from the A site. Typically the charged tRNA enter the ribosome in the A site and only reach the P site after a round of peptide bond synthesis. This is the common scenario. Okay, but during initiation, however, a charged tRNA enters the P site directly. Remember this word? A site is the entry point of the tRNA, charged tRNA. After that, it will become an P site. Okay, but when it is initiation, when it is starting, during initiation, however, a charged tRNA enters the P site directly. This event requires a special tRNA known as initiator tRNA, which base pairs with the start codon. Usually it is an AUG, and also I mentioned GUG. AUG codes for methionine, GUG codes for valine. It depends on which one is present, predominantly AUG, which should code for the AUG. Now this is the phenomena. Now we'll start with prokaryotic translation initiation. To understand the prokaryotic translation initiation, you need to know certain proteins, factors which are helping this initiation process. They are named as initiation factor 1, 2, 3 based on their discovery. Okay, and one more thing I want to mention, for prokaryotes, the amino acid which is entering at the initiation site is not the methionine. Instead, it is N-formyl methionine. See the structure. Well, there are three factors. What are the factors? IF1, initiation factor 1, initiation factor 2, and initiation factor 3. Each factor facilitate a key step in the initiation process. So let us see what is the function of these three factors. We will start. See this diagram where it is a small subunit of prokaryotic ribosome. I'm showing there A site, P site, and E site. At the in the beginning, we can find that IF3, initiation factor 3, comes and bind which position? At the E site. This is the exit site, but this is also the site where the bigger subunit come and join. Kind of a hinge, you can imagine like that. This is the joining point. The moment this IF3 comes and bind this region, now the bigger subunit, this is the 30S, the 50S cannot come and bind and cannot make a complete ribosome for prokaryotes. So IF3 is binding site is at E site, where actually after binding of IF3, what is happening? The bigger subunit of prokaryotic ribosome cannot come and bind to the smaller subunit. Now IF1, what it does, you can see from this picture, IF1 is coming and binding at the A site. A site is the entry site of the aminoacyl tRNA. The new coming tRNAs, generally they enter with this window. Now IF1, binding of IF1 prevents tRNAs from binding to the portion of small subunit that will become the part of A site. So once it bind there, it will prevent the binding of tRNA to come and enter from that side. Now IF2, let me show you, IF2 can interact with three factors. IF2 can see here. IF2 itself is a GTPase protein, meaning what? A protein bind and hydrolyze GTP. That's why GTPase protein interact with three key components of the initiation machinery. I mentioned it interact with three main machinery. One is IF1 and charge initiator tRNA. Number 1 is initiation factor 1. Number 2, the charge initiator tRNA, that means formilated tRNA I. This initiator tRNA is a special tRNA, that's why I at subscription written and formyl methionine. So whenever you see this kind of type of writing, FMET-tRNA subscript I superscript FMET, that means the first FMET, this is the amino acid which is carrying, and this is the methionine anticodon is present for that, and it is a special type of tRNA, that's why it is mentioned I, initiated tRNA. So it interacts with the charge initiated tRNA. By interacting with those components, IF2 facilitates the subsequent association of FMET tRNA I FMET with the small subunit and prevents other charged tRNA from association with the small subunit. That means it interacts with IF1 FMET tRNA I FMET as well as with the smaller subunit of the ribosome. And IF3, already I mentioned, IF3 bind to the small subunit and blocks it from reassociation with a large subunit or from binding charged tRNA. Understood? So IF3 becomes associated with the small subunit at the end of previous round of translation, when it helps to dissociate the 70S ribosome into its large and small subunit. Now there is an equilibrium between small subunit, large subunit, which is a dissociated condition, and with the complete ribosome. So if you want to drive the equation towards in the 30S plus 50S, so you need IF3 to bind to the smaller subunit, so that big subunit now cannot come and bind. Now with the knowledge of these three initiation factor 1, 2, 3, we can start the prokaryotic translation initiation. This is the exact mechanism how this initiation is actually followed. So we now know who is coming and binding. This is that's what I'm mentioning, that this is an equilibrium. This is the complete 50s, and this is 30s, 70s, and this is when they are in dissociated form. Now to make it in this position, we have to need first the three should come and bind, so it's a bigger subunit cannot bind. Now who is coming? Initiation factor 1, initiation factor 2, GTP comes, and you know where it comes and bind. That IF1 will be block the A site. 2 is a GTPase protein, and it comes with the formylated methionine tRNA initiator MET. This is the tRNA structure. It comes and position, which position is now available? Only the P site is available, because E site is already occupied with the 3 factor. A side is already occupied with the factor 1, IF1. Now which side is available for this tRNA? The site is available, it is only P site. Now the mRNA is coming and binding. At this position, the 3 factor should get released. Now once it is released, then only the big subunit can come and release. Binding of the big subunit, change the conformation, and then the GTPase activity of the IF2 triggers, hydrolyze the GTP to GDP and PI. That factor also get released. Simultaneously factor 1 also get released, and you are getting a complete ribosome together with the tRNA at P position and the mRNA also placed. Now let me discuss little bit more here. This positioning of mRNA also done by that you have already studied Shine-Dalgarno sequence. Now let me discuss little bit more. With all these 3 initiation factor bound, the small subunit of ribosome is now prepared to bind to mRNA and the initiated tRNA. These 2 things are now should come and bind. Now these 2 RNA can bind in, remember this word, these 2 RNA, what are the 2 RNA? mRNA and tRNA can bind in either order and independently of each other. So that's why it is showing independent of each other. mRNA also can come first, tRNA also can come before that. As discussed above, binding of mRNA typically involves base pairing between the ribosome binding site and the 16S rRNA in the small subunit. Now, if you think like that, tRNA coming and binding here, now the mRNA is coming. Now, positioning mRNA's AUG, that means the starting codon at the appropriate site, is done by the base pairing of Shine-Dalgarno sequence, which is present in prokaryotic mRNA's 5' site with the small subunit, small ribosomal subunits, 16S rRNAs 3' sites, which is complementary to each other. That binding will help the positioning the first AUG at the P site. So other than that, everything I mentioned. So this is the way. The last step of initiation involved the association of the large subunit to create the 70S initiation complex. When the start codon and FMET tRNA IFMET base pair, the small subunit undergoes a change in the conformation. That's what I mentioned. And this altered conformation is result in the release of IF3. IF3 should get out, otherwise big subunit cannot come. And once this is done, then what happened? The other protein subsequently will get released. And remember, when we are talking about IF2, it is a GTPase. A GTP hydrolysis takes place and then it gets dissociated and released. This is the initiation mechanism, translation initiation of prokaryotes. Now we are going to translation initiation in eukaryotes. So I want to give you an idea. I believe you all know the ribosomes are not alone coming and finishing one translation and then another one is coming. It's a kind of polysome. Whether it is an eukaryote, whether it's a prokaryote, polysome concept is there. But as the eukaryotic mRNA, which you have studied in your 3rd semester during transcription, that what are the post-transcriptional modification? Remember, capping, tailing, splicing, all these things are there. So there is some advantage of this eukaryotic mRNA because they are post-transcriptionally modified. So here, two types of post-transcriptional modification helps this translation process in eukaryote. Remember, one is this polyadenylation and another one is 5' capping. So later you will find, I will mention the name of the protein, but when you have, I believe you remember, during polyadenylation, the poly A binding protein PABP and one of the cap binding protein, one of the protein which is present in the recognition of 5' cap. So that these two proteins actually form a bridge. How bridge formation is taking place? It's circularized. You can see the photo, and then this circularization is actually helping first the stability of the mRNA. You must be knowing, always I mention it is very unstable. 5' capping, 3' tail, poly A tail actually gives the stability of the mRNA, prevents it from exonuclease attack. Now, not only that, it can form at this kind of circular bridge formation between these two protein, and that actually stabilize this circular structure, and because of that the maximum utilization of ribosomal subunit can be done. So once it is dissociate, immediately after that it can again reuse. So maximum utilization and maximum number of efficiency also increase. So this is a model where you can see once at the stop codon it is dissociate, immediately it is occupied at the start site. Now we'll start the, what is it called, that eukaryotic translation initiation. To understand eukaryotic translation, let me, in contrast to the prokaryotic situation what you have studied, in eukaryotic cells, binding of the initiated tRNA to the small subunit always precedes association with mRNA. So there I told maybe it comes together or may come one before another like that, but here association of the tRNA, it is a long before event. It's not never takes place, mRNA comes before. First thing, tRNA come and occupy its position. As the eukaryotic ribosome completes a cycle of translation, once it's finished, you can see it dissociates into free large and small subunits through the action of a factor. The same thing is there. Remember, the factor's name are little different. Small e stand for eukaryotes, IF3. In the previous, I will always giving a comparison. The IF3 initiation factor 3 occupies the E position, and that's why the dissociation between large and small subunit takes place. Here also the same thing is happening. EIF3, E stand for eukaryotes. IF3 occupies the C position. You remember IF1 occupies the A position, A site. But here EIF1A is the factor who comes and binds to the A site. Okay, now instead of one GTP factor protein, there are two GTP binding protein. One is E, stand for again eukaryotes, IF initiation factor 2, and E IF5B. You need to remember IF5B mediates the recruitment of the charged tRNA. For eukaryotes, this tRNA is charged with methionine, not N-formyl methionine, and is referred to as MET tRNA, I-MET. Again, you can see tRNA MET. So first MET meaning it is a methionine amino acid, tRNA I subscript meaning this is an initiator, and superscript MET meaning that is the anticodon is for methionine specific. In a case of this two types of GTP binding protein, which one is actually important? You need to remember that EIF5B GTP helps to recruit a complex of EIF2 GTP and methionine charged tRNA to the small subunit. So that 5B, EIF5B plays a crucial role to recruit the EIF2 GTP as well as the tRNA, charged methionine charged tRNA to the proper place. Together, these two GTP binding protein position this methionine in the P site of the small ribosomal subunit, and you see after association of all these things, this is named as 43S pre-initiation complex. Remember, this is a pre-initiation complex. When this thing is happening, at that time, you see the right hand side, what was happening here? Another complex protein, the name is eukaryotic initiation factor 4F, EIF4F. It has three subunits. One protein is EIF4E, another one is EIF4G, another one is EIF4A. These three proteins come and binds. Actually, they among them, that E protein is the true cap binding protein. A subunit of this 4F protein is has helicase activity, and G is actually will help in bridging. I just showed you how it helps in bridging protein interaction. Okay, so what I mentioned here, EIF4, EIF4F is it has three subunit. One is E, one is G, one is A. I mentioned that three subunit. Now, binding of EIF4B triggers the helicase activity of A, and it start canning. But before that, this now come and bind and form. You can see we are now talking about this formation. Now once this thing binds, I just wanted to tell you, all the factors are bound, all the binding protein GA all are present, and 4FB also there. B is triggered the helicase activity and it start scanning. This is an helicase activity. Helicase protein will help it, and there are so many, this is the RNA structure. There are so many hairpin loops will be there that need to be melt and need to scan where the first AUG codon is there. Remember, this codon, first initiator codon, is embedded inside a Kozak sequence. I showed that is a consensus sequence. It will scan up to that. See, the loop formation takes place, it scan, ATP hydrolysis takes place, and it reaches the first codon. Now, when it reaches the first codon, what is happening? EIF3, that should get out of this place. 4B also dissociates. EIF2 GTP now hydrolyze, become GDP. Now remember, at the cap site, EIF4F is still there. It has three subunit. Who comes and bind? The big subunit binds. There is a once these proteins get released, there is a conformational change because EIF3 get released. This is the factor who is actually preventing the binding of the big subunit. So once it gets released, there is a conformational change. Now 60S, the bigger subunit can come and bind to the small subunit. Once this bigger subunit can comes and bind, again another conformational change that leads to the dissociation of 1A, EIF1A. Now this 5B, this is another GTPase protein. It also gets hydrolyzed, and this is also GTP is converted to GDP and get hydrolysis, and you are getting a complete ribosome, which is where the tRNA with methionine is correctly placed in the first AUG, and at the same time the cap binding protein is still bound there. This is the initiation which takes place in eukaryotes. If you find any difficulties, please give me a call. So the reference books, whatever I have consulted, it's Voigt and Voigt, as well as Molecular Biology of Gene by Watson. Please consult these two. I hope you will find it is very easy. Thank you very much.